Hello, everybody, and welcome to Party Chat, our weekly Patreon-exclusive podcast for everybody who supports us at the $5 tier. If you're listening to this, you probably support us at the $5 tier, so thank you for being here. And if you support us at the $20 tier, the MinnMax Council tier, you can jump in and podcast with us each and every week. I'm Ben Hansen, and today we have in the big Party Chat not only a bunch of people from the community who are welcome to jump up and talk about whatever they want, whenever they want, by flicking little hands in the Discord stage, but we also have Janet Garcia.
Yo, what's good?
I'll tell you what's good. It's good to have Sarah Pazorski here.
Hello.
Hello. Welcome, you two. Thank you all for being here. Hey, everybody in the chat. Thank you for being here. We appreciate your support. Ready to talk about whatever you want to talk about.
But then also Kingdom Hearts 4. So that was a huge thing.
Yeah.
But
anybody in the chat, you want to talk about Kingdom Hearts 4? Throw your hand in the air. All right, Risky Chris P is here. He's born for this. Classic, surprising, bizarre announcement out of Japan where you wake up on Sunday morning and I saw one person on Twitter talking about Kingdom Hearts 4 and I was like, that's a weird thing to talk about now. Then you realize, they just revealed Kingdom Hearts 4, presumably with quote unquote gameplay in that trailer as well. Just huge thing out of the blue. Janet, are you a Kingdom Hearts person?
Nope, I've never played any of the games. We actually talked about this, I think, a few weeks ago. It might have also been in Party Chat of like maybe me playing them, the first one at least this year, but
right.
Yet to be decided.
They're beasts. The first one I think is like 37 hours.
Yeah, and this is this your most hated franchise, Kingdom Hearts?
Now look, here's the thing. I
thought of you immediately when I saw the news. I thought of you and then everyone that actually likes the game.
Thank you. I was putting on a little bit of a little ruse when we were talking about it, I feel like, in Gaming Confessions for how much I hate the games. I am fully in favor of, hey, teach their own, whatever, no harm to if you like this series. Just, I've had a tough time finding my personal love for Kingdom Hearts. And I think that what I played at Kingdom Hearts 3 really turned me off in a big bad way. But there's still plenty of cool stuff in there. Sarah, walk us through it. You wake up, you see Kingdom Hearts 4. How fast is your heart racing?
Well, I've only played 3 Kingdom Hearts games.
You're good.
And this Kingdom Hearts game, the Kingdom Hearts 4, will be the 16th game in the Kingdom Hearts series.
Oh my God.
So I have played absolutely nothing. I'm constantly in a state of confusion. I'm just here for Disney. I don't know why we're in Tokyo.
Okay.
I don't know what's going on. Why is Sora a human now?
That's why I'm here.
Thank you. Okay, Chris and Leafeon, I definitely want to get into that. Just for a frame of reference for how little I understand the details of Kingdom Hearts. I saw that trailer and I was like, oh, okay, interesting, sure. Didn't really notice anything weird about Sora, and then I saw somebody show a picture of Sora from each game, and it's like, oh, it turns out it's a full redesign. It is night and day. But
you didn't notice his shoes?
I didn't notice his little rinky-dink shoes. Now he's wearing size 9.
Oh, now they're little. First they were too
thereof.
big. Now they're rinky-dink.
Yeah, they're kind of embarrassingly small. They're kind of he kind of has horse hooves is the only way I can describe his foot size now. They've shrunk it down to the point that it's just the width of his leg. It's disgusting.
Well, they showed
Sarah.
his bare feet for the first time.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, people are very excited about that.
Aside from when he was a child, but yeah, his adult bare feet.
Oh boy. Okay, so here's the thing. I think we should probably get into spoilers for Kingdom Hearts 3. So heads up, Kingdom Hearts spoilers, they probably need to be game on at this point, right, Leafeon and Chris?
Sure, yeah. I think so.
Yeah, I mean, you could probably skirt around it, but it's more confusing if we get into spoilers.
If you've seen it, if you saw the trailer, I mean, there's one of the translated subtitles has sort of a spoiler in it. So.
Okay, interesting. So the thing that has me really intrigued by this is it's okay, well, I like Tokyo. I'm curious where they're going with this. It's kind of like a, we're just talking about the podcast, but a Castlevania Lords of Shadow 1 ending where it's now he's jumping to the real world. But I've seen people explain, or at least tease the idea that oh no, this is all of Final Fantasy Versus 13 reference within Kingdom Hearts, which has me very interested. Is that true? Is that the idea? Is there any connection to Versus 13 that's more apparent because of this trailer for 4?
Yeah, so actually...
Okay.
Yeah, so there's a secret ending to Kingdom Hearts 3's DLC where it shows there's actually 2 versions of it. So trying to think of where to start here.
Yeah.
In regular Kingdom Hearts 3, and then the game, when you go to the Toy Story world, there's a video game called Verum Rex that you can go into, and it's basically a parody of Final Fantasy. It looks like Final Fantasy 15 graphics. There's a main character named Yozora, who just looks like a Final Fantasy character with the white spiky hair and heterochromia eyes and things like that.
This sounds good.
Yeah. And then at the end of the DLC, you fight him as like a really big boss battle. And skipping a bunch of stuff here, but if you lose that boss battle, it ends up in its own ending, and if you win, it ends up in another ending. But both of those cutscenes are mirrors of that original Versus 13 trailer, where like Noctis wakes up in the car. You know, they're going through the city, and they go through the toll booth. So it's almost like 1-for-1 of that Versus 13 trailer, which is weird. But
and just to sort of add on to that, like the way Sora gets there, again, full spoilers for Kingdom Hearts 3 and its DLC. At the end of Kingdom Hearts 3, Sora dies. He sort of sacrifices. They go to do the last big final fight and they lose. And so in order to turn back time, he essentially uses all of his energy to do that. And by messing with the time too much, he ends up sort of just dying, essentially. And so you see him essentially wandering in this weird like afterlife sort of area, and that's when Yozora finds him and clearly recognizes him, and at that point takes him somehow to this version of Tokyo, essentially, where the fight takes place, and then everything that Leafeon says happens. So and it's also worth mentioning, just fun little aside, that the way they introduce Verum Rex in Toy Story World is like a la Toy Story 2, where you start that world and it's like you don't know what's happening because it's like, you know, when Buzz is in the video game, but they don't.
Right.
It's a very fun little touch there.
That does sound really fun. I like all of these ingredients. So, I mean, it's probably just a cheeky nod from Nomura to his past with the development of Versus 13, right? It's not like Versus 13 is canonical in any way, or it's going to be implicated in Kingdom Hearts 4?
Well, it's probably going to take the scaffolding of Versus 13, you know, like the general story and things that he wanted for it in this. So it'll probably be, my theory is that this will be the Final Fantasy world where everything Final Fantasy will be there. It just kind of like as the base of all Final Fantasy stuff will be Versus 13.
That's interesting.
So, yeah.
It's weird because they've, like, as the games have gone on, they've sort of dropped the Final Fantasy side of things more and more, to the point that in 3, the only Final Fantasy reference, as I recall, in the core game is literally just the Moogles and like a couple of references here and there. And it's not until the DLC where you actually at least see those Final Fantasy characters like Sid and Aerith and things like that. But they still have a super minor role. And so it would be interesting to see if this was their way of, that's a good theory on Leafeon's part, that maybe this is their way of trying to bring that back. And they just, maybe Nomura knew that was going to be a larger emphasis going forward. So he was like, well, with 3, we're just going to, you know, not mess with it, but maybe that's they're in the next game.
Yeah. Sarah, what stood out to you in that trailer, other than his cute, normal shoes?
I mean, besides the fact that he looks totally human, so he's gone from being a cartoon character to more of a human character.
Right.
The fact that, like, we're back in Shibuya once again, which is apparently the only area that you can fight giant monsters.
Well, it's weird.
In Japan.
I wonder if, like, Nomura's going to be referencing The World Ends With You at all, because he also had that other game set in there.
Yes. So that's the other big theory, was that in that secret ending for Kingdom Hearts 3, where it shows Yozora's world and things like that in Shibuya, there's also Riku waking up in a world that looks like Tokyo. And people noticed that the 2 shots of where Riku and Sora are 2 versions of Japan. And one looks more like The World Ends With You, and one looks like real Tokyo. So, yeah, it's very weird.
Yeah. I mean, it'll be cool to explore Shibuya one more time, right, Sarah?
One more time? Is it really ever one more time?
I mean, you're nostalgic about Japan, right? Are you annoyed by how much Shibuya crossings in games at this point with Ghostwire Tokyo and all
I'm
that?
a little bit annoyed because I feel
on.
like there's a lot of other places in Japan that are just as like beautiful and, but I think it's just not as, it's like New York. It's
Right.
like, the superheroes are always in New York. Video games are always in Shibuya. Like, that's just how it is.
Yeah. So there was apparently, I thought this was going to be a nonsense article, but I think it was GameSpot had an article about like, hey, I think they're teasing more in this Kingdom Hearts 4 trailer than people are talking about. And it turns out that they have shots of that forest. And then in the background of this beautiful looking forest, there is a metallic foot, which is heavily implying that this is going to be Endor. And it looks like an AT foot or an ATST foot? I can never keep those straight.
ATST.
ATST, thank you. So it looks like Star Wars is finally coming to Kingdom Hearts, right? Is that just the only read on that?
I saw that. I wouldn't be surprised if Star Wars does come, just because like the themes of light and darkness and like the lightsaber keyblade like just write themselves. I was sort of surprised they didn't make it into the last one, but I don't. To me, it seemed a little far-fetched to like make that pull there personally, just because that whole beginning seems like it was sort of pretty firmly resting on what's going on with Sora, and I don't think they would mix like the Japan side of things with like the Disney World side of things, but that's just my take on it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking at it again. I don't know. You think they'd want to tease something so that just they're not saying that it's all taking place in Japan. So you think that's just like maybe a Japanese forest and that's what they're getting at there?
I think so, because at the end they sort of do the tease, because you see Donald and Goofy, who have been separated from Sora at this point, that are walking in the darkness.
Right.
And they turn around and there's that blue flame and that turns to red and freaks them out. And I haven't done a lot of research as to what the consensus is on what that is, but my guess is that that's probably Hades. Yeah,
it is Hades. Yeah, that's the Japanese voice actor for Hades. So.
I was gonna say it sounded a lot like him and the way the colors were, which is weird because Hades has like Hercules has been in every mainline Kingdom Hearts game and even most of the spinoffs at this point, so it's consistent in that way. But like Hades has never been the big bad, so it's interesting.
I thought they were like looking for Sora in the afterworld. Like they were like, I don't know, let's go get our friend from hell.
That makes
hell is
sense.
Tokyo.
So they were saying like, oh, he's the only person who can help us with this. So they're going to Hades for help on the afterlife and things about the afterlife, because that
makes a lot of sense.
It's
just funny because in the Kingdom Hearts worlds, like they've essentially used the realm of darkness as like their version of hell for so long that the thought that they would actually go to hell itself is weirdly accurate. That thought never crossed my mind.
What'd you all make of the gameplay? Like fighting the big heartless monster? Is there a better name for that thing?
No, we haven't seen that one before.
Okay.
Yeah, it looks like the big heartless called the Darkness. That's like in almost every Kingdom Hearts game at this point that has heartless. But like it didn't have the actual heartless like logo on it, so it's probably some sort of new, whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, the gameplay itself looks really, really fluid. And that's always been like the increasing quality of Kingdom Hearts gameplay is that it always gets more and more fluid. But it gave me big vibes from that original Kingdom Hearts 3 gameplay reveal, where there's like no UI. It's just like, here's the gameplay. And they're just like doing a billion random things, summoning rides and things like that. And this was just like doing a billion things that just flowed into each other too well. I'm like, when the game comes out, there's going to be a bunch of QTEs going on with this.
Yes.
And like big flashing lights of where to click.
Yeah.
Well, even when like he pulls out like that drill sort of thing, that was very a la Kingdom Hearts 3, where they have like the forms where you change like mid-fight and your Keyblade will transform into all these different like styles of either shields or like hammers or things like that. So it looked very similar in that sense to the Kingdom Hearts 3 gameplay, in my opinion. And I was just shocked that we saw gameplay at all. That it seems so soon from what we've had to wait in the past for Kingdom Hearts games.
Yeah, especially when you think about, the fidelity that they're going for in this world now and just the look of the assets. And for Sora, it's like, this thing is going to be a long ways out, I would imagine. Hey, we got Fred and Procyon number 6. Welcome, Fred.
Hey,
welcome.
So regarding gameplay, I think, good news. we haven't seen it yet because there's no way. Like they never actually show real gameplay on these first trailers. Like it's all conceptual. Like that wasn't gameplay. Nice try.
You're right. They're trying. Hey, Procyon, not to put you on the spot, but I assume you're a Kingdom Hearts fan if you're here, right? I
actually was waking my computer back up, and my mouse was over the invite to speak hand raise.
Okay, so the floor is yours.
I played a Kingdom Hearts game on Game Boy Advance.
Okay.
It was like card based.
Yes.
Like you moved around, but your attacks were cards.
I played that one as well. I started that one at least.
Yeah, I always thought that was cool. I'm just wondering if do you think, to use one of your phrases, is there a universe where there's like a very coherent Kingdom Hearts storyline somewhere? Like it's just as mainstream, it's just as popular, but the story doesn't require 13 games and 4 hours of YouTube videos?
It'd be interesting. I mean, I would hope.
But is that part of the appeal, right? Like,
yeah, Leafeon and Crispy, what do you think? Like if they announce Kingdom Hearts 4, now it's just super streamlined story, right? This is a new chapter. Do you think they could clean this up at all?
I think they can, but I don't think they will.
Yeah.
I think they'll make it more as like the deeper story is there if you want it. The more complex things are there if you want it. But if you just want on the surface things, it's there for you. Just like Kingdom Hearts 3 was, except they needed to smooth that out a lot more. Like Kingdom Hearts 3, 90% of the game was on the surface Disney stuff that you didn't need to know anything really about the deeper Kingdom Hearts lore until the entire last act of the game. Which was all just Kingdom Hearts lore.
Right.
It was all backloaded. And I think the way for them to make it better is, like, for a future game was just make it more subtle. And, like, the mobile games, too, are purely almost Kingdom Hearts lore. Like, there's no Disney lore, really.
Right.
So I think they might want to allocate all of the Kingdom Hearts stuff to side games, and then the main game being, on the surface stuff and the big events.
Are you Kingdom Hearts fans here? Are you annoyed by everybody being snarky every time they announce anything Kingdom Hearts and everybody just dumping all over it for being silly?
Yeah.
Okay.
Only a little. I mean, it's sort of, I said in the Discord, like the gaming channel yesterday, that a lot of it I realize is rightly deserved. Like I have rose-colored glasses. Like I have a lot of love and nostalgia for this series, but especially with 3, I can look at the dialogue and even in context, but realize that some of this is poorly written, that the way that they close things off, even for some of the fans at the end, was not very satisfying. Like in no way do I think it's a perfect franchise.
Right.
But some people, they do take it a little, it's just interesting. It's like the easy target, I guess, is what it is. And so it doesn't bother me that much, but it is interesting to see, and I understand why. It's an easy target.
Yeah. What so at the start of the trailer for Kingdom Hearts 4, it calls it the Lost Master arc. Is that implying kind of like a new trilogy, or is that something that's in other games?
Yeah, no, that's a new trilogy, because the first one was the
Xehanort Saga.
Yeah, that's what it was. And to like sort of go back to your other question, they definitely could have made a clean cut, because like that's how they started this new trailer. It's like, this is the new arc. This is like a fresh start. But the entire time in 3, they were teasing, what was to come, and that wasn't answered fully, which is obviously going to be answered here. And like Leafeon said, there's so much lore in the mobile games that is obviously carrying over. So it seems like at its core, they could probably just, wrap it up to say, okay, Sora died at the end, and now this new arc is about him, waking up and being reunited and figuring out whatever that is. And at its core, that could be like the premise that's easy to explain to people to get them on board. But there's so much baggage that they're very clearly not going to let go, that is sort of a shame, because even I, as like a super hardcore fan, just don't care about the mobile games, and I wish they would stop.
Yeah, I get it. Sarah, Janet, any other wisdom for Kingdom Hearts you want to throw in here?
No.
Good luck to all of us. We're gonna need it.
I'm looking forward to the chaos that will be like, I don't know, because I don't know when this game's coming out. My boyfriend Isaiah likes Kingdom Hearts. He shook his head yes.
Okay.
And I'm like, oh, you excited for this? And he's like, this game isn't coming out.
No.
He's like, it's not coming out anytime soon. But like, I'll see y'all in 2027 Best of Watch. is to watch me play Kingdom Hearts 4 for no reason for 2 hours.
Yep, that's it. It's going to be great. Leafy and Crispy, have we hit it all? Is that Kingdom Hearts in a nutshell?
I think so. The only other thing I wanted to say was that I'm actually replaying Kingdom Hearts 1 on my Twitch channel right now for the 20th anniversary, and it has a lot of PS2 gameplay design where if you don't know where you're going to go, it's going to take a lot longer.
Right.
There's actually a trophy for beating it at under 15 hours, and I'm playing it on the hardest difficulty, and I'm pretty close to hitting that.
Wow, that's pretty good.
I just want to say, especially if you follow a guide and you're playing like normally, like I'm putting a bunch of different like difficulty modifiers on myself to make it harder. But if you were to play it normally, especially with a guide, so you can kind of know where you're supposed to be going, because a lot of the wasted time would come from just wandering around. You could absolutely beat that game within 20 hours. I'm saying for no particular reason, not at all deepest dive related down the road, but just saying.
It would certainly be a journey, but I think it'd be popular. Yeah, so we'll see how it goes. No promises. All right, that's Kingdom Hearts 4, everybody. Thanks for jumping up. It's so nice to have experts in the community. I mean, Sarah and I could have talked about those shoes for 20 minutes, but thank God you guys are in here to actually tell everybody what's going on.
Well, I'll write a whole thesis on that for this week's podcast. Don't worry.
Thank you. Please do.
I
Crispy?
could probably talk for hours about Kingdom Hearts, like have my own podcast essentially.
Oh boy, so, that's what the Discord's for, I guess.
Exactly.
Cool. All right, thanks so much, fellas. This was a clip from Party Chat, our Patreon exclusive podcast that airs every single Monday. The podcast features cohorts and friends of the show, contributors, talking directly to the MinnMax community. So if you're looking for even more podcasts from MinnMax, this is the place to go. Just head to patreon.com/MinnMax with 2 N's, support us at the $5 tier, and you can listen to Party Chat every single week. Thanks so much, everybody. We appreciate it.